of the alliance. The message reads: the upward trajectory of our bilateral relations is highlighted by our strategic partnership for the 21st century, an essential dimension of Romania's foreign policy, which provides broad prospects of cooperation in a wide range of fields: politics, security, economy, research, technology, science and education, as well as interpersonal contacts. The Romanian president's message also reads. Also, in a press release on Sunday, the U.S. ambassador to Romania, Adrian Zuckerman, said Romania is one of the United States' closest military and economic allies in Europe. The Romanian people have no greater friend than the American people. Thank you, Romania, for the 140 years of friendship and cooperation, and to many more years to come. On Monday, the Romanian Foreign Minister Bogdan Aurescu will attend the internal meeting of the EU Foreign Ministers held via video conference. The main topic on the agenda is transatlantic relations. The participants will have a talk with the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on the importance of the partnership between the EU and the United States against the background of the Covid-19 pandemic. Another issue to be discussed is the relation with China, with the aim of enhancing dialogue and cooperation at this level. Also under discussion will be the Middle East peace process and the eastern neighborhood of the EU, with focus on Ukraine. Bogdan Aurescu will convey a message of unity and pragmatism and will stress the importance of strengthening transatlantic ties. He will also speak for the need of maintaining a solid American presence in the areas affected by lasting conflicts, in particular in the eastern neighborhood. And that was the news from Bucharest, Radio Romania International.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Radio Romania International's English programs. Here are some of the highlights of our weekly broadcasting schedule. On Mondays, we broadcast a history show, the program that takes you on a foray into the rich history of the Romanian people from its beginnings to more recent times. You will learn about the events that shaped the Romanian nation, not only from historians, but also people who witnessed some of the events. If it's Tuesday, we take a look at Romania, its people and places from a different perspective in Inside Romania. On Wednesday, Society Today provides an in-depth analysis of some of the most important social issues facing Romania today and features interviews with sociologists and experts as well as members of the public. Traveler's Guide, our weekly tourism program, goes out on Thursdays and takes listeners to all corners of Romania for an exploration of the country's landmark tourist sites, as well as some of its hidden treasures, from rural, eco-friendly holidays to adventure travel and exclusive getaways. The world we live in is full of challenges, from migration to climate change, the economic crisis and international terrorism. All of these issues come under scrutiny in The Future Starts Today, on Friday. Stay tuned to Radio Romania International during weekends for the latest from the world of Romanian arts and culture, including reports from ongoing festivals and events, as well as interviews with artists, writers and critics in Saturday's World of Culture. We also extend you an invitation to try out Romanian recipes in the cooking show. On Sunday, Listeners' Letterbox takes a look at some of the letters and messages sent in by our listeners and brings you the latest on our programs and frequencies. Stay tuned for all these and much more on Radio Romania International, including current affairs, analysis, sports and lots of music. The English team wishes you happy listening. This is Radio Romania International, broadcasting from Bucharest. Panorama.
Coming up next in the program, stay tuned for Panorama, which is a selection of features highlighting the attention-grabbing events, be they political, economic, cultural or musical, in the past 2 weeks in Romania. I'm your host, Eugen Nasta. The Foreign Affairs Ministry in Bucharest went at all lengths to facilitate the repatriation of Romanian citizens stranded by the coronavirus abroad. My colleague Cristina Matescu brought to you a report on the issue earlier last week.
With the state of emergency coming to an end in Romania and the countries entering the state of alert, hundreds of Romanian citizens have asked the Foreign Ministry to help them with repatriation flights. The Romanian authorities continue efforts to facilitate the return of the Romanian citizens stranded abroad due to the restrictions to air travel imposed amid the coronavirus pandemic. Hundreds of Romanian nationals have been repatriated over the last few days from France, the UK, Germany and Spain, and from cruise ships from around the world. The list of people repatriated from France includes Erasmus students, persons whose employment contracts were terminated, tourists in transit coming from the US, and resident doctors who had been training in France. The Romanian citizens repatriated from the UK include students, people who had been in hospital and who benefited from the support of the British authorities with the repatriation, homeless persons and seasonal workers from Jersey Island. They have all returned to Romania on charter flights operated by the Romanian state airline Tarom. A charter flight from Bucharest to Amsterdam and back will be organized at the end of the month to bring back Romanian crew working for the World Merchant Fleet. More such flights are being considered from airports in the UK and Germany. Tarom has announced recently that it will conduct flights from Bucharest to Rome, Milan, Madrid and Barcelona and back to repatriate the Romanian, Italian and Spanish citizens who wish to return to their countries of origin, following increasing requests to this end. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, several thousand Romanian nationals have been repatriated, most of them from Italy and Spain, but also from China, the United Arab Emirates, Israel, Cyprus, France, Morocco, Portugal, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Belgium and the Netherlands. These flights take place in the context in which the Romanian authorities have extended a ban on commercial flights to and from a number of countries by the end of the month. Also, all persons arriving in Romania from abroad are ordered to quarantine or isolate at home for 14 days. People may also choose to be in quarantine in the special facilities organized by the authorities.
Culture has been moving online these past weeks. In World of Culture, your host today, Eugen Nasta, brought to you a feature on the most relevant cultural projects that have been run in Romania recently. All throughout the officially imposed lockdown, cultural institutions have tried to maintain the connection with the public via the internet exclusively. However, such an unprecedented challenge has been testing cultural strategies in critical circumstances, but also the public's interest for cultural events. It appears then that the fund-drawing competition is mainly ongoing between the public and the independent environment. To that end, the National Institute for Cultural Research and Training has recently staged a debate. Anca Becuț-Marinescu is a research director with the aforementioned institute, and here are the details she gave during the debate. We all need to bear in mind that competition should also be ongoing at the level of drawing the public, as the public at large has been affected already because of the level of the cultural practices proper, which is low anyway. What is going to happen next? That greatly depends on the level of trust people will have in institutions, as well as in the messages and the offer made by the public cultural institutions and the private organizations alike. Also, risk management should be a must in the strategy kit of any cultural institution or organization, or at least that's what Anca Becuț-Marinescu thinks. In the past months, that has been demonstrated by a kind of reality very few people expected it existed. Andabe Kutsmarinescu once again.
O problemă importantă și felul în care oamenii percep.
The key issue is also the way people perceive risk. Awareness should be raised regarding that kind of risk, including cultural organizations. It is not only the public that has been excluded, but also the professionals activating in the field of culture. Obviously, the quality of the artistic act has to be rethought from the perspective of that kind of risk we have all been confronted with. In all likelihood, it is the quality of the cultural act that will mobilize the public and will yet again bring this field to everybody's attention, a field which is indispensable in any modern society. Exclusively distributed in the virtual environment as it may be, the cultural content will have to adapt to the demand of various cultural communities, at once maintaining the high standards that are required. Speaking about that, here is Andabe Kutsmarinescu once again.
Atenția în perioada următoare ar trebui să se concentreze.
Attention in the coming period should be focused on the quality of the artistic act, on the quality of the content. Latterly, we have been witnessing an overproduction of online cultural contents, of which some were not of the best quality. There is an ongoing competition at global level. Likewise, the way we assume the community is just as important, which includes physical proximity, but also the taste and preferences communities created in the online environment. Irina Cios is the director of the National Cultural Fund Administration. Ms. Cios views the Covid-19 crisis as an opportunity for the cultural sphere. To a certain extent, events in the past months have brought to everybody's attention the important problems culture is faced with in Romania. Speaking about that, here is Irina Cios herself. The virus for us all is actually an extraordinary opportunity. I think it is for the first time in history when in Romania people speak about culture publicly as well as the central level. It is for the first time ever when real steps have been taken on the path of supporting this sector and initiating a systemic reflection process. Perhaps we should take such an opportunity seriously. We should sum up together and see what we can do for the famous cultural strategy, but also what the steps we need to take in order to promote the concept of culture and the level of general mentality. The lockdown caused a decrease in cultural consumption, yet the figures statistics have pointed to were worrying even when cultural activity was normal, when all around Europe everybody had access to cultural events. In Europe, Romania lies at the bottom of the table according to a ranking of the participation in a cultural act. Tudor Andrei is the director of Romania's National Statistics Institute. He will now be giving us details on that. How mobile Romania's population is from a cultural point of view. We can see that if we look at several percentages, bluntly compared to percentages reported for other European countries. There is a very important percentage which reveals what social mobility for Romania's population means and which measures the participation in cultural activities. A meager 30% of Romania's population takes part in at least one cultural activity over the course of a year. In France, more than 75% of the population participated in at least one cultural event over the course of a year. The average percentage at European level stands at more than 60%. Also last week, my colleague Lăcrămioara Simion told you all about a French student pursuing an MA program with the French-Romanian Law School for European Studies based in Bucharest.
Yaren Juliocur is 24, and she is studying law and governance in international and European affairs, after having previously studied in France at the Paris 5 René Descartes University. She then enrolled at the Sorbonne for an MA in Law and Governance in International and European Affairs, delocalized to Bucharest for 1 year through a partnership with the French-Romanian Law College of European Studies from Bucharest. Let's find out why Yaren chose to study law.
Alors j'avais des membres de ma famille qui ont fait du droit aussi, pas spécialement mes parents ni mes frères, mais
I have relatives who have studied law, and this has influenced me. I also like this domain, and I believe a career in law suits me well. I was advised to study law because I'm a very rigorous person, which is an essential quality in this domain, Yaren told us. Yaren Juliokur will next share with us her first international study experience in Romania.
J'ai toujours été en France, toujours été à Paris. Enfin, même en France, j'ai pas été dans une autre ville, j'étais vraiment à Paris. Et puis ensuite,
I have lived all my life in France, in Paris more exactly. So I wanted to travel a little to see other places because Paris is a very busy city. I wanted to discover another country. So the prospect of studying in Bucharest presented itself as an excellent opportunity for me. I was impressed by Bucharest. I didn't expect it to be such a beautiful city. It's easy to live here. It's a welcoming city. I have had a good relation with the people. They are very nice and smiling. I have traveled to Brașov, Sinaia, and Sibiu. And in Brașov I visited the Bran Castle. I drove through these regions to admire the landscape. I found the cities in the countryside different from Bucharest. Before coming to Romania, I had imagined that these cities there would look in a different way. And what I imagined corresponded with what I saw when visiting these regions. I had in mind rural landscapes, less developed areas which remind me of the Turkish towns, not Istanbul, which is also Europeanized, just like Bucharest. Bucharest looks like a European city, and I told my family only good things about it. I told them that Romania is worth visiting, even if the country is unfortunately not well promoted as a tourist destination, said Yaren. With the Covid-19 outbreak, Yaren Juliokur had to leave for Istanbul, where she found a job providing her with the opportunity to practice international relations in a multinational company. She is doing MA studies online now, and exams will be equally online. In her spare time, she's doing various sports, swimming, tennis, and karate. In autumn, Yaren Juliokur will try to have her studies made in France and Romania recognized in Turkey, to enroll at the only French-speaking university there, Galatasaray in Istanbul.
Romanian traditional music is a living treasure today. In Truly Romanian this week, your host, Eugen Nasta, brought to you a fine selection of songs performed by a Romanian traditional music legend, Sava Negrean Brudașcu. Sava Negrean Brudașcu had a rather sad childhood, and she remembers the efforts her parents had made to keep her alive and safe. Coming up next in the program, here is another fine song from Sava Negrean Brudașcu's repertoire.
Mândră floare-i norocul, mândră floare-i norocul, dar nu crește în tot locul, dar nu crește în tot locul, că să face lângă apă, hai, hai, la 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 la, și l-avem doar câteodată, da 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 da.
Savane Grambrodashko's experience of traditional singing occurred when she was very little, as she was asked to sing at wedding parties, being spotted for her exceptional voice. Her vocalist's career spans more than 3 decades, and you are now invited to listen to yet another song from Savane Grambrodashko's repertoire. Savane Grambrodashko is a versatile traditional music vocalist whose repertoire includes patriotical love songs, merrymaking songs, as well as carols. Quite a few of her songs have become very popular, being highly representative for the Transylvanian musical tradition. Coming up next in the program, here is a love song from Savane Grambrodashko's repertoire.
Focus on Romania. You are listening to Radio Romania International.
Next in this broadcast, it's all that jazz. I'm Cristina Matescu, and today we're devoting this program to the late Peter Wertheimer, one of Romania's best saxophone players from the 1970s and a great improviser. Wertheimer grew up in Timișoara in western Romania, but came to Bucharest to study at the Music Conservatory. He emigrated to Israel in 1977, where he continued his career in jazz music. Listen to him next play a folk-inspired tune composed by Florin Lungu and entitled The Dance of the Hills. Our next and final choice today is another folk-inspired piece, again written by Florian Lungu and played by Peter Wertheimer on the saxophone, and entitled The Five-Leaf Clover.
Living Romania. This is Bucharest, Radio Romania International. Listener's Letterbox.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to a fresh edition of our weekly Listener's Letterbox, the program which acknowledges your messages and answers your questions. I am Daniel Biltz on the microphone, ready to take you again on another journey around the world by means of the messages, reception reports and letters we have received from you via the snail mail or the email. The first message to acknowledge in this program comes from Mr. S.S. Bhattacharya, president of the Cheaptoyman Listeners Club based in India, quoting from his reception report. Date 13th of May 2020. Time between 11:30 and 12 hours UTC. Frequency 15320 kHz. CO for all. Good signal today. Language English. Receiver communication type X-Data 808 model with antenna loop. Questions. Do you have any plan for workers who lost their jobs due to COVID-19 case? And any rehabilitation plan for the transport worker? Thank you very much indeed for the accurate reception report and the questions, Mr. Bhattacharya. The answer to both your questions is yes. The Romanian government has endorsed plans to assist workers who have lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, the government has earmarked money and various incentives for the companies which are hiring people, as well as all sorts of subsidies for small and medium-sized businesses aimed at reviving this economy sector. A couple of days ago, the government held talks on a project aimed at granting loans to the big companies, also in an attempt to jumpstart the Romanian economy affected by the crisis. Time now for another letter. The following one comes from our long-time listener and friend, Patrick Travers, who writes from Sheffield, written the following. Dear RRI, I have been listening to and enjoying your broadcast on Wednesday the 10th of June 2020 at 20:39 hours GMT on 6170 kHz, SINPA code 55444. Program details. Romania's President proposals, President announcement, epidemic report by London-based institution, vote of no confidence, Liberal minority parliament, Romanian workers returning from abroad, Romanian living standards dropped by 10%, focus on Romania, society today, lockdown restrictions, survey online training, 60% at office, 40% at home, working from home. Working from home has caught on in Romania. Visit Romania, trips to the mountains. 20:55 GMT, transmission schedule. My radio receiver is AirSpy HF plus Discovery antenna Wellbrook ALA 1530 at 4 meters. Please, will you send me one of your QSL cards and count this reception report towards my membership of the Radio Romania International Listeners Club? I enjoyed listening to your broadcasts. Thanks for visiting the mountain range in Romania. Keep safe. Thank you. Regards. Thank you very much indeed for the very accurate report of reception abounding in details about our transmissions, Mr. Travers. We have a QSL card on its way to Sheffield in Britain. Just wait for the mailman. From Britain, let's now move on to Selangor in Malaysia to say hello to Tim Braille. Here is a fragment from his letter. Hello and greetings once again from Malaysia. As we enter the month of June, the movement control order around East and West Malaysia is being relaxed significantly, thus allowing interstate travel, social distance dining at restaurants, businesses are reopening and small group congregations that wear surgical masks. So, hopefully the worst of COVID-19 is behind us in Malaysia. Aside from this, a week ago I was involved in an accident. While out walking to a shop in my neighborhood, I was struck by a car. Consequently, I fell and was apparently semi-conscious as I managed to call my niece and daughter. Although I hasten to add,
I do not recall any of this. Meanwhile, the driver who knocked me stood by until the police and the ambulance arrived to take me to hospital. Eventually, I slipped into unconsciousness, and then 4 or 5 hours later, I was discharged from hospital and allowed to go home. From this ordeal, I received 8 stitches to my forehead and eyebrow, 3 dislocated fingers were reset, and multiple abrasions were sustained from head to toe. Fortunately, it was not any worse than this. Meanwhile, as I recover, I have been listening to radio, in particular the BBC, Radio Taiwan International, a Voice of Vietnam, and last but not least, Radio Romania International. With that, I conclude this letter and have attached a recent reception report of an RRI transmission below. As before, should it be correct, your recent QSL would be much appreciated. Thank you. Keep up the exceptional programming, and until my next correspondence, stay safe.
You are listening to Radio Romania International.